to News and Views, and it's time for our hashtag Africa Focus feature. This is a part of the show where we look at some of the pressing stories across the African continent. And this time around, we'll be switching or turning our attention to, I think, what is the biggest story on the African continent right now: Tanzania's general election, in which President Samia Suluhu Hassan appears poised to retain power amid broad questions about the fairness, competitiveness, and human rights implications of the process. And to help us analyze this moment and what it may mean for democracy, for governance, and for human rights in East Africa as a region, I'm joined by seasoned Tanzanian journalist and media analyst Ansbet Nguruma, founding president and editor-in-chief of SK Media, and a veteran commentator on Tanzanian politics, governance, and human rights issues. Ansbet, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salaamedia. Really appreciate you giving us your time.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
I think let's jump right into it. I think there's been a hype of activity in the last few days in Tanzania. From your perspective as someone that's on the ground, how would you characterize the lead up to this election in Tanzania, particularly in terms of competition, opposition participation, and the state of media and civil society as a whole?
To be honest, I'm not on the ground, but I've been reporting from Sweden, collecting information from all the media access that I have, because I also lead a media that is reporting on Tanzania and East Africa as a whole. So I'm informed. I know what is happening. I know where to collect information. So I competently answer your question. The thing is, this year's election has been very, very less competitive. It's the least competitive we've ever had, because the main opposition party did not take part in the election simply because of the irregularities that are in place. And it has been campaigning for reforms, that without reforms, there's not going to be any election in Tanzania. Some people took them seriously, some people didn't. But eventually, of course, they had a plan to block the election. And as the election time came closer, it was like they are not going to do anything to block the election. And eventually they said, we are going to boycott the election. But what has happened after that is a story that is going to be written for the next generation to read. So there has been no fair competition in this election. And of course, as you expect, in a regime that is brutal and autocratic, even the media, you don't expect so much from the media in Tanzania because they're equally muzzled. So, we don't get so much information that is real, but we know what is happening because now with internet, with social media working, with the people can even report better than some journalists because of they see what is happening and they give the true and edited feelings of the situation.
Just to segue slightly away from the elections themselves and focus specifically on the state of democracy in Tanzania since President Samir Suluhu Hassan came into power in 2021. How would you give an assessment of that? There have been surfacing reports that mention all kinds of human rights abuses, as you also alluded to, that have barred certain political parties from participating within the democratic process of the country and the elections, and also things that you normally see in dictator-ran countries, disruptions to the internet and all kinds of freedoms being taken away from the citizens. How would you assess the state of democracy in Tanzania today?
I think it is at its worst because for the past 10 years, we've been experiencing the kind of autocracy that we never associated with Tanzania many years ago. The regime that is in power right now is a continuation of the regime that ended 4 years ago with the abrupt death of the president. So when she took over from Magufuli, of course, it's the same situation that was there. But as I look at things now, these same brutal regime operatives I think they have mastered the art of abduction, of killings, of torture. If you ask people on the ground, they'll tell you it's worse than the Magufuli times. But it's the same people, the same operatives, the same regime, same party. It's the same people, but I think they've matured in the evil. So the media don't really report so much about what is happening on the ground. The civic space is clearly declining, is shrinking for the past 10 years. The voices of the people are completely ignored. You can experience the high level of arrogance and impunity when it comes to those in power. So even as the main opposition party and influential activists were campaigning and calling for the reforms before elections, these people didn't care because they knew they're just in power. And Tanzania has been a very peaceful nation. And I think they have been taking this peace for granted. But for the first time in many years, you see organizations, strong organizations like the church, like the Catholic Church, coming out strongly to speak on behalf of the people. For the first time in the history of the country, the major opposition party since 1995, when the multi-party elections resumed in Tanzania, for the first time, the major opposition party, which commands, this, I think, the strongest following in terms of political following, is, is boycotting an election. And some people, including me, we didn't take it serious at the first time because we are used to usual, business as usual. But now something has happened that is different from what was happening before. So the state of impunity has been higher than it was in a few years ago. I don't know why, but I think it's because of those guys in power have been too arrogant to follow logic.
Let's talk about the sentiment on the ground and how ordinary Tanzanians are responding to the state of affairs. We've seen all kinds of protests in the last few days, especially last night. Is there a sense of an uprising of some sort, taking pages out of various other parts of the continent where we've seen young people get into the streets and try to influence change in any way? And do you see this as the correct kind of way to go about things, especially with the government with a human rights track record like the one that you just mentioned?
We are all puzzled. We are experiencing something that has never happened in 64 years. The Tanzania decades-long docility is gone. The bold Gen Z are now in control, and they are running the show. We never expected this to happen, but we see the sleeping lions have been awakened. And Tanzania will never be the same again, because from yesterday noon up to now, as I speak, they are on the street. They're protesting everything that is related to the government. They're burning down some government buildings, the vehicles, and I'm told some people have fled. The election is like already stopped because I don't know what is happening, because they have now even stopped the internet to make sure people don't communicate. But not knowing that, stopping the internet is also putting themselves in the blackout. So they won't even know what is happening. And we don't even know who is in control right now, because the government is like, it's something that we never expected so quickly. But the young people have shown us a different way. So it's really worrying, but at the same time, it is giving a lot of hopes. When I speak to people who can access VPN and they tell me what is happening, it's really shocking. But to the young people, it's fun because they say, we'd rather have this than have the same regime that has been killing people, abducting people, and so with what is happening now, I don't know, everybody is worried. We're not sure how the culmination will be, but I can tell you from the ground, People are rejoicing, especially the young people. And for me, this is a lesson that our generation is learning from these young people. The Tanzania I know that used to be the most quiet, peaceful nation in the whole of this Southern Africa has given up, has given rise to one of the boldest Gen Z movement that came at a time when nobody expected it. And I can see the regime falling, not because of the political power of any other party in Tanzania, but because of the power of the people represented by the Gen Z.
There you go. Anspet Ngoroma. Hope we chat again soon because I feel there's still so much more to unpack and there'll be a lot of updates coming out of Tanzania. But we're going to leave it here for now. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
There you go, seasoned Tanzanian journalist and media analyst with over 2 decades of experience covering politics, governance, and human rights in East Africa. He's also the president and editor-in-chief of SK Media, Ansbert Nguruma, giving us a clear picture of the current state of affairs in Tanzania. If you just joined us, Tanzania is making headlines as President Samia Suluhu Hassan appears to retain power after a tense national election, which has been marked by opposition restrictions, internet blackouts, and reports of protests and casualties. While Samia is praised for economic stability and diplomatic outreach, critics say her government has tightened control over dissent and media, raising concerns about the state of democracy in one of East Africa's most influential nations. The outcomes of these elections, I think, will reshape both Tanzania's political direction and the region's democratic trajectory in the months ahead. So, Tanzania, a lot happening in that part of the continent, and all of us need to keep a close and very, very keen eye on the developments there. But once again, young people, Gen Zs, being the ones that are leading these protests. We've seen it in Kenya, saw glimpses of it in Mozambique, the post-election violence there, largely led by young people. We're seeing similar scenes unfolding in other parts of the world. And right now, it's in Tanzania. There's a wave of change, and young people are leading it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.